Hey y'all, it's Lauren. This week I'm talking with Kalani Smith about ghost hunting. This is the Chicks and Dip podcast. All right, y'all, I'm back on the set with another episode of the Chicks and Dip podcast. Welcome, you guys. Thank you for being here. It's me, your host, Lauren Wolverton. I'm so excited today. We have a fun guest. I'm going to introduce him here soon. But before I do that, I don't think that I explained this to you actually whenever I started recording. My guest today, his name is Kalani, and I know him because like 3 years ago, I met his wife, Savannah, and y'all know I'm always talking about my little photo shoots that I do. Y'all see them all over my Instagram. But she and I connected for photo shoots, and since then we've done what, like 4 of them or something? Like over the years we've done a ton. Also, they're in the studio right now as I'm recording this. But yeah, so that was just like a fun little tidbit. And so her husband has a poppin' TikTok. He does TikTok, and he does ghost hunting. He travels the country to investigate these haunted places. So y'all are in for a really, really interesting episode. Before we get into that, I'm going to tell y'all a story that I've been thinking about over chips and dip. And this one is actually very relevant because it involves, the paranormal gifts, if you will, speaking to spirits and whatever. One time, I met a psychic, okay? And the psychic is like, I'm sensing something from you. I'm like, ooh. Okay. And he's like, you have a boyfriend? Yeah? No? Do you have a boyfriend? And I'm like, I do have a boyfriend. He's like, knew it. And then he's like, you love him, but he has wandering eyes. So, my crazy ass, I go home to Cameron and I say, Cameron, the psychic said that you have wandering eyes. You care to explain? And first of all, Cameron's like, number one, what psychic? Did you pay for a psychic? Please say no. Number two, wandering eyes, like, what are you talking about? I mean, I came in the door hot. And so he talked me off the ledge on that one and explained to me, take a psychic with a grain of salt. Also, I don't have wandering eyes. You are with me 23 hours a day. I said, okay, I'll remember that. I can't. Psychics are weird, though. Like, they've got charisma. You can go into a conversation with a psychic and be like, this is all bullshit. But something like they're trained, they're professionals, they make money from this. They know how to like say stuff that's like vague enough to where like a little piece of you is like, like that could be right. Like the psychic said something about one of my coworkers. He was like, same guy. He's like, I can feel that you're stressed. And she's like, I am. And I'm like, no shit. Everyone on the earth, you can say, I can think that you're stressed. Like, duh. And he's like, probably about money. And I'm like, okay, again, too vague and too obvious. Who isn't stressed about money? Also, at the time, we were like 23. Like, duh. I don't know. I'm not on board with the psychics, I don't think. However, I am on board with ghost hunters, and you will see that coming up. Before we get into it, though, I've got to thank Neutral. Thank you so much to Neutral for supporting the Chicks and Dip podcast. Again, y'all know them, you love them. Neutral has been the sponsor from the jump, and they are the best. Today on the set, I've got classic cranberry, and I have got, what is this? Cranberry apple. Cran apple is actually, like, I think my favorite one. In this current moment, when it's nice and chilly outside still, chilly, I say chilly. It's January, so in my head it's chilly, but it's actually like 85. But, whenever it's a chilly month of the year in Savannah, the cranberry apple is wonderful. They're light, they're refreshing, they're packed with flavor, but they don't taste sugary. I can't hype them enough. It's, vodka seltzer made with real juice. It's wonderful. So thank you so much for supporting the show, Neutral. I love ya. Yeah, and with that, we will get into it. We've got a wonderful conversation, and so I'm going to toss. Okay, y'all, I'm here on the set with Kalani. He's a ghost hunter. Welcome to the pod.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
I'm so excited.
Yeah, so I'm glad my wife set it all up. It was kind of a surprise, and she knew I was coming to Savannah and made sure to try and make it happen. So
I love it. I've known your wife for 3 years now, which is crazy.
And I've never met you.
I know. I feel like I owe you. Or owe you. I feel like I know you.
Yeah, it's just the timing never worked out.
I know.
But I'm glad we finally got to meet.
Fabulous. Okay, so we'll get into I guess we can go ahead and brief the listeners. You're here to ghost hunt in a apparently haunted property here in Savannah, which we'll get into that. But I kind of feel like we should start from the beginning. Tell people, first of all, like, where are you from? Who are you? How old are you? What do you do for a living?
Okay, so my name's Kalani Smith. I'm from Nashville, Tennessee. I am 24 years old, and I'm a full-time content creator, and more specifically, ghost hunting content.
Heck yeah. And so how did you get into ghost hunting?
So when I was 11, I was on a Boy Scout camp out in the Shiloh battlefield in Tennessee, and I was out causing trouble, tipping tents in the middle of the night. And I stumbled across what I thought was a reenactor, because we were there the day before the reenactment was supposed to take place. So I thought it was a reenactor. The little boy turns around. He's dirty. His English is really weird. It's like old English. I was confused at the time. But anyways, I talk with this little boy, and then he walks past us, and I watch him just disappear. And from that point on, it wasn't really a question if there's something out there for me. It's how can I find this again? And that kind of started that fascination, and then that led into the consumption of the TV shows, and I started to go on like my own little mini investigations with a K2 meter, and then I started running groups for an event company.
And so how did you learn? I mean, like, so you said like you were just kind of like playing around. Like, did you just like start and give it a try and just like research? Like, did someone teach you how to ghost hunt?
With this field, with all of it being theory, you can't really be an expert. Like,
Gotcha.
You can be experienced in the sense of like, right, if a piece of equipment goes off and I know what makes that a piece of equipment go off, I can try and debunk what's causing this to happen. And if I can't explain it with the understanding that I have, then it still doesn't make it evidence, but it makes it a little bit more questionable on what's causing this device to go off. Because, for example, a lot of the devices run off of electromagnetic fields, which, with how many airwaves and radio waves and technology that we have today, that can be very, very flawed. So like, or if it's near exposed wiring, for example. So if I'm in an abandoned location and I know that there's no power in the building, and all of a sudden I'm getting EMF spikes in the middle of this abandoned building, then it's a little bit more convincing because I know there's not power running through.
Oh my God.
Our phones put out quite a bit, so you have to be careful with, if your phone gets too close to something, it'll cause it to go off. And if you're not experienced in the sense of how this stuff works, then you may be liable to say that that's a ghost. So you can't really be an expert in this because, like I said, you could come out and say tomorrow that the sky is red, and if you could back it up with whatever you're believing, there's not really anybody that can tell you no, which is a wonderful and horrible thing all in one.
Yeah. And so your goal, before we started recording, you kind of explained to me, your goal isn't necessarily to prove that this location is haunted. What's your goal whenever you...
For me, it's more just an adventure, right? Because my life now is just odd. Like, I mean, my Tuesday nights are spent in an insane asylum, walking around singing Johnny Cash with ghost hunting equipment for millions of people on the internet. Like, you can't really, there's not really a guidebook to my life, right? There's not really a, this is the route you need to take. I kind of have to just figure it all out as I go, and every night it is a new adventure. So I more or less, I create the content because people love enjoying living through what I get to do. Because there's a lot of people that are super interested in this field, but you've got kids, you've got a family, you've got a job. You can't just travel the country going to these places at the rate that I'm doing it.
Yeah.
So it almost gives people an opportunity to explore these places in a more organic and less produced capacity. Because when you watch a lot of the TV shows, they tell you they're there for a night, and they're actually there for a week, and they're filming with a full production team. Whereas when you're watching me online, it's like me and maybe one or two other people. That's it. Right. So it's a very skeleton crew. There's not a lot of fluff added. If I don't have anything happen at a place, I don't make anything happen. So it's like I have the freedom to where I don't have ratings I have to hit to stay relevant. I can just create my content and keep on going.
And so explain your TikTok to people. Like, what kind of content are you doing? I know there's live videos, there's not live. I don't know what the opposite of live is. Tell us about your TikTok.
So I do, my TikTok is a variety of things. I'm known for being a live streamer.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm one of the top live streamers on the entire platform.
Wow.
In just terms of overall numbers in a given year. But what's interesting is now I have post-produced content, which is what you were looking for there.
Thank you.
So post-produced content is essentially I film it and then I edit it or have an editor edit it for me and then I throw it up on YouTube. Or with TikTok, I don't jump into a lot of stories. There's a million people that'll go on there and they'll take like clips from a haunted location or a picture from a haunted location from online and they'll tell you the history. For me, I'd rather make the content at the place rather than just like sit there on my phone and talk about it. So a lot of my stuff, some of it's funny, some of it's more serious, some of it's just promoting a live stream I have coming up. But this year, I've kind of switched my focus from, like last year, I would be at 3 different locations in a week, which is really hard because you're driving constantly. You're running on 1 to 2 hours of sleep or no sleep. You're sleeping in pilot truck stop parking lots just to make it to the next spot. Whereas this year I'm doing usually a week-long lockdown every month at a different location. So like instead of having to go somewhere new in a given week, I literally will show up, set everything up, and then I will be live for that entire week.
Oh my gosh.
So it's it feels like the Truman Show, like but ghost hunting.
Right.
Like, you just have people watching you do everything, and it kind of took a little bit to get used to that, especially when people are like, I want to watch you sleep, because they want to watch like what happens in the environment as you're asleep.
Right.
Or they want to watch, I don't know. But
somebody out there definitely just wants to
watching,
sleep.
somebody loves watching me snore. Like there was a minute there where there was a bunch of profile pictures of just me snoring.
What?
On TikTok. And then like sometimes I'll do stupid stuff because when I get bored, it gets weird. Mm-hmm. So there was one point in time where like in my comment section, there was my eyes for a profile picture. Somebody had my nose, somebody had my mouth, and they were trying to line it up in the comment section. It gets crazy.
That is funny.
It gets crazy. So
you're going into these places and you're like, hey, you guys, I'm going to do a ghost hunt. Like, how many people are watching you? How many people are following you?
It really ranges. So I have, between all my platforms, I have almost 2.5 million. The best night I've ever had to date, in one night, I had 30 million views.
30 million?
Mm-hmm.
And you just got live cameras up and you're streaming on what? TikTok, Twitch, all of it?
So I stream on TikTok and Twitch now.
Okay.
Some places, the connection's horrible.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, I can't do my full production at some places because like when I set up Twitch, that's a 4-camera surveillance feed now, which that takes a lot of bandwidth to run, where it's up to my par or up to the quality that I would like to produce. So sometimes it's just a TikTok stream, but yeah, it's crazy because the variance is very high. Because the way that the algorithms work, there's not really like you do this and this is what's going to happen. Sometimes I'll go to a place that I think is going to be incredible and do really well in terms of the traction it brings, and it only gets like 1 million.
Yeah,
and
only.
I'm not saying that to sound like that. It's just your perspective changes.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
Like when somebody tells me they have a viral video and I look and it's 10,000 views, I'm like,
You're like, it's okay.
that's good. I mean, it's a start. It's just, you have to have that constant moving the bar of expectation.
Right.
Otherwise, you're going to get complacent, and complacency is what's going to be your worst enemy.
Yeah.
So I say that because even a 1 million view video now for me is like,
it's okay.
It's 1 million.
And so like if the live stream is on and like something freaky happens, does it like spike? Like,
no.
Really?
Mm-mm.
The
No,
lucky ones just happen to catch it?
It doesn't work like that. And it's weird because you would think like there would be like, oh my gosh, there's going to be a spike. Like yesterday we had our camera get turned on and we showed that on stream. I think yesterday I topped out at like 19,000 concurrent viewers at once. Mm-hmm. But on TikTok, the most I've ever had in a single stream at once was 43,000 people at once.
Oh my God.
Watching it. Which, if you go look at even like A-list celebrities, most of them aren't pulling that.
Why do you think it does so well? Like, do you think it's just the unknown people are just so curious?
I think because I present my content in a way that is different from the majority of what the paranormal has been.
Okay.
And it has grown in popularity, right? There's people on YouTube that have grown exponentially just producing paranormal content. Like, it is becoming more widespread, and I think there's a general interest that is growing in paranormal and haunting. And it's very cyclical, just like everything else. There's the ebbs and flows, and we're in a point where it's really popular right now. And like, for me, as somebody that has only been producing the content for a year and a half, I've been doing it a lot longer, but I've only been making that content. There's a lot of people that get very, very jealous because, they've been doing this for 20 years and they haven't gone anywhere, which I tell people it takes a just incredible amount of effort and time and money. Like I said, I work probably about 80 hours a week.
Yeah. And
it's not like I'm living a lavish lifestyle out here. Like, I'm spending, I had 1 hour of sleep yesterday, and I'm setting up all these cameras, like nodding off on the camera or on my computer. So it's like, there has to be the passion behind it, or it would not be possible.
Yeah. And so, like, what is the tone of your videos? Because, like, before we started recording, we were talking about, like, you're kind of goofy sometimes.
It's more humorous. It's more lighthearted, because I feel a lot of how paranormal has been marketed for so many years is fear-based. Mm-hmm. Which, I mean, there's obviously a place for that, and there's people that make a lot of money every year by producing fear-based content. But for me, I wanted to eliminate the fear component, because I feel like fear almost adds a bias to any of these places. If you're going in scared and you're going in expecting to be scared, you're going to usually get scared.
Yeah.
But if you go into the location, like for me, I'm just chilling. Like, I'm just pulling up to an insane asylum. I'm pulling up to a tuberculosis hospital. Like, this is just an average Tuesday for me. Uh-huh. But when you go in with that attitude, you're okay with nothing happening. But if something does happen, you can react to it. Mm-hmm. And I think that level of just level-headedness and also a more less serious approach is better in some ways.
That makes sense.
Because if I go in and I'm like, demons, present yourself, the power of Christ compels you. Like, if I go in saying that, like, I feel like an idiot. Like, I can't do it. Like, it's just not my approach. It's not my style. Huh. Like I said, I sing songs. I started a karaoke party with that little doll last night. Like, it's just the most sporadic stuff, because that's how my mind works. So like, I'm a different person when I'm in my entertainment role. Like, it's me, but it's almost like a heightened version.
Right.
Because I'm very introverted outside of my role of being an extrovert. Mm-hmm. So it's just like a heightened version, because I'm very sporadic, very random. My ADD and ADHD are super bad, so I just kind of let that take hold, and you never know what you're going to see. That's the beauty of it, is people tune in, because 1 minute we could actually be ghost hunting, and then the next minute I'm like kissing this doll that people say is like cursed. So like, there's so much variance in what I do that you're not just getting ghost hunting, you're getting entertainment regardless if there's actually any activity happening.
Yeah. I can see how that would do well. Like, if I'm watching two videos and it's like, okay, one person is going in and they're like, this doll is so scary, I'm going to tell you how scary it is. Versus you being like, apparently this doll's haunted, let me kiss it on the mouth. Like, I would much rather watch the second video, because it's like, this guy's crazy.
Yeah, like, I mean, people are like cautious to have me around, because they're like, they don't know what I have following me, or like, they're like, I watched you kiss this doll. Like, there's not a doll out there I wouldn't kiss. I mean, if we're being completely honest, like, you can give me Annabelle, Robert, all of them. I'll kiss them. I don't care.
Oh my God.
Doesn't bother me.
So I do, like, I want to, like, walk me through, you pull up at this haunted location. First of all, how do you find your locations?
A lot of times now, just at the level we're at, the locations find me.
Okay.
Or I have fans that have connections, and the connections find me. Mm-hmm. So now it's turned into people want me to come, because obviously it's a nice boost for all of their stuff, which, right. I mean, I'm proud to be able to do that for people, but also it's nice to not have to fork out all of this money that I used to. But I have like a Discord where people can go in and recommend locations. Some of them are cemeteries. Some of them are random abandoned places in the middle of nowhere. Some of them are actually like established businesses. So there's not really a shortage of haunted places.
Oh, that's freaky. So you pull up, like, what is like the best practices? Like, do you greet the property? Like, I feel like I would walk in and say, hey, you guys.
So sometimes I do. and like the Savannah Haunting House, I've made sure not to watch the movie. I didn't do any research. I didn't want to know anything about the property. I wanted to go in blind because if we did have something come through, which after doing a little research this morning, we had something that actually lined up without me actually looking for that answer.
Right.
Right, because if I tell you not to think about an elephant, the first thing that's going to come to your mind is an elephant. But if you don't know what to think about and the elephant comes to your mind anyway, then it's a little bit more, okay, why am I thinking about an elephant now?
Right.
So that's how I approach it when I go in blind is I don't know what I'm looking for, but if it presents itself and then I can match that up later, it's a better confirmation for me that I actually made contact with something that had intelligence.
Yeah. And so what kind of equipment are you going in with? Like, I know you set up all the cameras, right?
So I've got spirit boxes, laser grids, ultrasonic motion detectors, infrared motion detectors, thermal equipment, REM pod, which is essentially like a proximity sensor. It sets a field around an antenna, and anything that enters the field will cause this device to go off. Some of it's very archaic, and it's like dressed up in like this 3D mold to make it look cool. But like when you look at the bare bones of the technology, it's like not very intuitive. But some of it is pretty cool. Like there's just one device that I use that sweeps through letters, and like something can select a letter and spell out stuff. So like I've gotten FU on that quite a few times.
What?
And then I was at a prison in Tennessee where they held James Earl Ray, and it spelled out hat FU. So it has to select each and every letter for it to register on the device. So it spelled out the word hat, which I wear a hat.
Oh my God.
And then it spelled out FU. And then we got FU again when I reset it. So
okay.
it's pretty cool.
Do you call them spirits? Do you call them ghosts? What's the proper name?
I would probably say spirits. It
Okay.
seems less like gimmicky. I say Kalani Ghost Hunter because when I was branding myself, I was like, this sounds cool.
Yeah.
Like, Kalani Spirit Hunter just sounds like I'm going to get hammered at the bar. But Kalani Ghost Hunter, like, you know exactly what we're talking about. So I didn't go with Spirit Hunter because, you know, I didn't want to be confused with like these bourbon folks out there.
Yeah.
So I stuck with Ghost Hunter.
Do you think that the spirits you encounter, like, do you believe some of them are friendly and some of them are evil? Like, what are they like?
I think they're just like people, right? 'Cause there's
Okay.
people that are assholes, and I think when they die, that they're probably still assholes.
Yeah.
Good and evil, I tell people all the time, are just perceptions, right? And like you can think of some of the worst people through history, and to a group of people they were good, and to a much larger group of people they were evil. So I don't like to give the labels of good and evil because, again, that's just your perception. But I will say that there are some that are a lot crankier. They just seem like, for example, at the Crescent Hotel in Eureka Springs, Arkansas, one of the entities there is named Norman Baker. He's actually supposed to be the charlatan of this entire history of the place. But every time that I sing, this thing comes through and tells me to shut up. Like, he doesn't like me. He does not like my humor, does not like anything about me, and I love poking and prodding at this guy. And every time I'm there, it's consistent. No matter who I put under the headphones, he's telling me to shut up. So I'm like, love it.
That's insane. So how is he communicating?
So in that particular sense, we'll hook somebody up to a spirit box with noise-canceling headphones, and this is called the Estes method. Now, the Estes method is supposed to eliminate that human bias of looking for an answer.
Okay.
So, like, if I hook up a spirit box, it's like it's like spitting out so much crap. Like, you could think about it long enough and start hearing stuff. But if you have somebody hooked up to headphones and they start saying things that are directly in line with what you're asking and they don't know what you're asking, then it's really cool. So at the Crescent, Savannah is actually really good at doing the Estes method. So we'll put her under the headphones. I'll ask questions. One of the girls that actually works at the Crescent that runs their TikTok account was live with us, and she's on the headphones, and her name comes through. And then something was saying that it was watching her sleep in that room, because where she was sleeping was where the old pain ward was when it was a hospital. So, but they said that they liked her. And then, like, it was really cool because we had a bunch of names start coming through. And then one would say a name, it'd be like Tom, and then a REM pod would go off. And it'd be like Betsy, then the REM pod. Like, almost like they were like coming up and touching it after their name was called.
Wow.
So those are the parts that are really, really cool. When you have, it feels like you're just talking to somebody in the room. You just can't see them.
Do you ever feel scared?
No. I love
Really?
it. I don't go into it with the fear-based mindset because for me it's fun. Like every day I get to do this is just fun.
So I'm trying to think of how to ask this in a way that makes sense. Like what are these spirits doing, do you think? You know what I mean? Like why are they hanging out? I'm sure they all have different reasons, but like what's their vibe?
So I have a few theories, and sometimes they overlap and sometimes they don't. But there's one, it's essentially called the bubble theory. But it's like you take two bubbles and you rub them close together, there's going to be a little overlap.
Mm-hmm.
So the parallel, like what if there's another timeline or another universe out there where we're at this location and due to environmental conditions, whether it be like solar flares or something that the Earth is doing to create this almost friction between our timeline and another timeline.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what if we're the haunting of somebody else's timeline when we're in a place and we're like knocking on the walls or we're making noises? Like, what if we're somebody else's haunting? So when we go to these places that we know the history and you're calling out the name of somebody that we know to be there, like, what if they are alive in their timeline and then they hear their name coming through on our side because we're looking for them, and then they're freaked out, we're freaked out because we hear something go.
Y'all, I cannot make this up. While you're telling me this crazy thing, I'm freaking out at what you're saying. Then there's a big crash outside. What was that? It totally sounded like a car accident. There's a big road right there. Maybe it was like the dump truck? I don't know what just happened. That was insane timing. I was literally like so wrapped into what you're saying, and then it's like outside. Anyway, keep going. Sorry.
Yeah, so sometimes I don't think that they're like trapped in this old building. I think that they are alive and well on their timeline and during this time of year, because like a lot of people look at phases of the moon because that affects the tides, and there's a lot of things that you could look at that could potentially lead to this explanation of overlap.
Wow.
But sometimes it does feel like that when I go to a place that it's almost like there's something that it may not be trapped there, but it chooses to stay there. And I don't actually think cemeteries are really all that haunted because, where are you going to get buried at?
I don't know.
Okay, most people don't. So why would you go hang out in a place you've never known or never usually will know until you're dead?
That's true. You'd probably pick somewhere familiar.
Yeah, you'd go somewhere where you either had really good memories or if it's something traumatic, you had something bad happen. Mm-hmm. I would probably go with the good memories, but I don't think people just go haunt a meat sack in the ground. It doesn't make sense to me.
It doesn't make sense to me either. That's really interesting. Gosh, if somebody in another timeline is hearing me at my house or me in this studio, they're probably like, I've got the loudest, most annoying ghost.
Yeah. So you may be somebody's annoying ghost.
Oh my God. I bet they hear my shoes.
That's what's crazy is it's like when you start thinking about it, like you start hearing random stuff in your house move or you'll hear voices. Like, what if it's just overlap and you're somebody else's haunting? That's crazy to think about.
That's cool to think about, though.
I would love to be somebody. Like, I'm running through these, like, Waverly Hills. I'm running through screaming and running. And, like, I'm probably freaking out all these people if this is true.
That's kind of awesome. And so, something that y'all will see long before this episode comes out. But I'm going to come with you to ghost hunt tomorrow night. I'm very scared. And so I was doing some research, like what to do when you go ghost hunting. And there's a lot, like you said, fear-based things. A lot of people suggest praying and saging. Do you do any of that?
No. So for a long time, I told people my protection was gummy worms. So like I went to the portal to hell is what they call it at Bobby Mackey's Music World in Kentucky. And I take one of these gummy worms and I throw it in this pit. And I climb down into this pit, which is supposed to be the portal to hell, and I pick up the gummy worm and I eat it. Now, it was really bad because there's people that like urinate in this hole and like they will like bleed into this thing. And I'm like eating a gummy worm out of it. But it was the principle of like, I'm not scared.
Right.
But no, I don't do any of it. I actually ask for attachments everywhere that I go. Because, I mean, in my head, right, I am a paranormal content creator. So why would I not want a whole posse of ghosts just following me around? Because, if things are getting quiet, maybe one of them can make something go off for me. Then I'm not, is the location haunted or am I haunted?
Oh, I mean, that's an interesting way of looking at that. Okay, also, I like that you called them attachments. I was trying to figure out what they're called because one of my questions was like, how do you prevent bringing something home? Is attachments like an industry term?
Yeah, that's usually what people call it. It's
Okay.
when something kind of attaches on.
Yeah. How does that work, do you think?
That I don't know. But for me, I look at it from the perspective, like, I'm giving them an opportunity to leave when I ask them to come. Like, who wants to sit in this 1800s farmhouse that smells like raccoon shit and whatever else is in there? Or you want to ride with me and we can go on adventures everywhere over the U.S., all over the world. Like, for me, it's almost like I'm opening the door for them to be able to travel.
Yeah. So, okay, you've got like a very like friendly relationship. Like, do you think it's kind of like, you know how like animals, they always say like animals can sense fear. Like, do you think that's how it works? Like, you're not scared, so they're not scared of you, so they don't do anything freaky?
I think the energy that you put out is the energy that's reciprocated.
Right.
And I think because of my just very lax, friendly, fun approach, that's usually all I ever get.
Yeah.
Because, for me, it's just like people. Like, you're either going to really like somebody or you're really not. There's not really any in between. Mm-hmm. And if they want to be friendly to you or talk with you or do any of that, it's because they like you as a person and not because you're asking them to do something.
Gosh. Tell me about some of the places you've been. Of course, I've seen a lot of your TikToks, but tell me like some of the highlights.
So I call them the big box stores because they're the most established businesses, also probably just the most overhyped. Mm-hmm. But Waverly Hills, it's a really cool place. It was a tuberculosis hospital. Just tens of thousands of deaths. It's probably one of the more famous ones in the U.S. That one's in Louisville, Kentucky. I've been to Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum in West Virginia. That place was just huge. I've been to Pennhurst Asylum in Philadelphia. I've been to Eastern State Penitentiary in Philadelphia.
Are these places, they're not functioning anymore? Are they abandoned or some of
They're
them
not
running?
abandoned. They've now turned into like almost like tour spots. So like you can rent the place out through the business that is established there. So that's when I first started, I was coming out of pocket to cover all of these location costs.
Yeah.
Right. Because when you've got 10,000 followers, like nobody's like, you're paying full price, bro. Like,
right.
It's not like now where they're like, yes, please come in. We would love the traction. Mm-hmm. But I conducted like 170 locations or 170 investigations. Some of them were repeat locations, but I've been all over the place as far as Hawaii and Alaska.
Wow.
It's pretty crazy.
The hospitals and insane asylums, like I feel like those to me would be the scariest because I've watched that season of American Horror Story. You know, like with Adam Levine in that first opening episode. Have you seen that?
I haven't.
Are you serious?
I don't watch much. Okay, I'm going to tell you this much. I don't watch really anything on streaming services or TV. I'll watch football. I'll watch King of the Hill when I go to sleep. And I'll watch Supernatural on occasion. I also like Rick and Morty and The Office. Okay. But like anything outside of those, I don't watch.
Oh my gosh.
I just, when you create so much content, your consumption of it goes down a ton because you're just like, I don't want to watch this.
Yeah.
Like the Dahmer series came out. I don't even have the Netflix account.
Wow.
So I don't really need the consumption aspect. I'd rather just create.
That makes sense. Well, the opening scene of this season, it's Adam Levine, and he's like at a insane asylum, and it's all abandoned and spray painted and overgrown, and he starts to like hook up with a lady in there, which first of all, disrespectful, and he
happens.
gets brutally murdered. So
it happens.
Why do people like? Okay, if you're not ghost hunting, why do you think people want to go to these places? Is it like a thrill?
I think it's a thrill, and also there's just this human condition where we feel the need to leave our impression or our mark on a location. Like it's like
you gotta christen it.
whether it be that way or like people just doing graffiti. It's almost like we want a part of us left somewhere. So like when people go into abandoned places, you'll see names all over the place. Wow. But when you look at the name Steve, like no one's gonna have any attachment to that other than Steve who spray painted it on the wall. So it's like, why is Steve deciding that it's pertinent for him to spray paint his name? But it's just this weird condition we have as people that we want to be remembered in whatever facet that we can.
That's so interesting. So before we started recording, you were talking to me about people calling like the cops on you while you're live. Can you talk about this? Because this is so crazy.
So it's starting to become trendy again to SWAT people. So swatting is essentially when you're watching a live streamer and then like the actual police are at their door, and they usually will call with like an insane crime, like bomb threat, active shooting, burglary, like your top tier, like this has got to be stopped now.
And so this is like, I open my TikTok app, I see you live, I know what location it is. And so I call 911 and say, this guy's live on TikTok, he's about to blow the place up.
Yeah, so this specific example, I was in Circleville, Ohio at a place called the Octagon House. Now, obviously, you can look up the address online. And part of me marketing is I have to say where I'm at. I mean, I'm doxing myself online because that's just how you market as a good marketer. But unfortunately, the drawback of that is people know where you're at that time. So somebody from Texas actually called the sheriff's department and reported that there was an active burglary going on. And the sheriff's department knew I was there, but the person kept calling back with different stories. And like they eventually like, we're going to have to go out here because if something does actually happen or something is actually happening and we don't go, that falls back on us.
Right.
So there was like 8 cops. They all showed up. They knew I was there filming. One of them was watching my stream as they were coming in. It was just insane. But once they verified my identity, then, they were like, have a good night. So it was kind of nerve wracking because I'm opening this door and I have a tripod in my hand with my camera with a light on it. Right. In those instances, even though they knew I was there and they knew that somebody was supposed to be filming, right, that could have gone a lot worse if they think that item in my hand is something else.
Yeah.
So there's people that have passed away from swattings in the past because of stuff like that. So it's like not good. And I don't want it to happen again. I mean, obviously it's fun to laugh about now, but in that moment you're like, why are the police knocking on this door? And what's really crazy, so I had one of my buddies that creates content with me, and he's under the headphones, and he says they're coming. And in the moment I'm like, who's coming?
Oh God.
Like, this doesn't make any sense. I'm like, I didn't even think about it. And then literally like 10 minutes later, the cops are knocking on the door. And I'm like, they're coming. I wonder if they knew the police were coming.
Oh my God.
It was weird, but it's almost like whatever was there was like giving me a cryptic warning.
Oh my gosh. They're on your side. The spirits are on your side because you're friendly to them.
Yeah, maybe I should have dipped out, but I didn't know that they meant the police.
Yeah.
Maybe if they would have said like the police are coming, I'd have been like, okay, I'm going to get out of here.
Yeah. What's been I don't want to say the scariest because you're not scared, but like the most like activity, like the most interesting thing that you found?
So the interactions we had at that hotel, connecting and almost like I'm talking to you now, like that's what it felt like. That was really cool. There was actually the first place I ever did like an organized investigation in Tennessee is called the Thomas House Hotel. And I was in here alone streaming one night, and there used to be a necromancer cult that owned this building. So a necromancer cult is they try and like raise the dead in a way or communicate in the dead a little bit more in depth. But they used to dance around naked in the now dining room.
Okay.
And they have all these symbols all over the floor. So I'm like mocking this cult and I'm like saying their name over and over and over again. And I'm like on stream, I'm like, see, nothing happens. And literally as I say that, there is a chair that's against the wall that flies like 6 feet at me, and it lands like in front of me. And I'm like, okay, chair flying at me, which that stuff is not common. Like I've done all these investigations and I've had something physically happen in the environment maybe 3 times.
Wow.
So it's not like a lot of the videos online are trash.
Really?
Like it's like people putting fishing line on stuff and just pulling it. Because if you notice, it's always getting pulled out of frame because somebody's running a fishing line.
Right. Because
people just want that viral video. But I've only had physical things happen probably about 3 times.
That's kind of crazy. Did you like get an adrenaline rush? Like, woo?
Yeah, like you get the tingles and you're like, huh, that's pretty interesting. I don't know how that chair ended up there.
Did you keep making fun of them?
Yeah. I mean, I was like, can we make a table fly now? Like, what else can you do? That's usually my follow-up when something crazy happens is, what else can you do?
Like, do you talk out loud when stuff happens?
Yeah.
I feel like that would be calming in a sense. You know, like, I know I would be a little bit scared, but if something happened and I was like, hello. Like,
yeah, I mean,
you doing?
You have to get used to it, too.
Yeah.
Because, like, especially when you're streaming and you got all those people in there, you know, you don't think about it, but if you put 19,000 people in the room with you, I mean, that's a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I probably wouldn't do well with that in person, but because I'm not having to look at these people, you know, I'm just having a fun time walking through this haunted place.
You're just doing you.
Just chilling.
Walking around like you're just cleaning the house or something. Talking
That's
to
it.
yourself.
That's it.
I like it.
It did take a while to get used to that, though. Like, you don't just start out being comfortable with that.
Yeah.
It's something you have to really kind of get used to. And then also just being a content creator, you have to pretty much be used to people being involved or trying to find out every facet of your life.
Yeah. What do you have to say to people who are like, ghosts aren't real?
I mean, here's my thing, right? For people that have never traveled to different countries, like, they're not real to those people. Like, I could tell you all about Australia, but until you go to Australia, it's just a place on the map. You don't even know if it's real. Like, you've never been there.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like, once you have that experience where ghosts are real to you, you're not really in the business of having to prove it to somebody else. When that time comes, if that time comes that they have an experience that they truly can't explain, then now they have found their Australia. Mm-hmm. But it's not my job to take them to Australia.
That was a gorgeous answer. So I'm curious how you make money, because this is so unique. We've had a TikToker on the show before, but she like made art. And so, you know, that's clear how she makes money. The TikToks get more orders. What is the flow of income for you?
So for me, it's the platforms pay me, right? Because now TikTok has a subscription program. Mm-hmm. So I'm in like the top probably 30 creators for subscription amount.
Wow. Are you wait, you didn't do that? I did it, but I'm not really good. Calvin, oh my God. Okay, y'all. Oh my God. Calvin, earlier we had to stop recording because Kalani brought something into the studio and our mics were getting weird, and now Calvin's phone just started playing music out loud. But that was a user error, right? Okay, he said it was a user error. Thank
No
God.
paranormal, just normal.
Oh my God. So you make money from the subscription.
Yeah, so subscriptions, I make money through Twitch through subscriptions, Patreon through subscriptions. I make money through the content. Now, I did get demonetized on Instagram until January 8th. Coming back up on that.
Why?
Okay, so I'm not proud of this one, and I know why they did it, but I posted a Jeffrey Dahmer video when it was all popping off. Uh-huh. And I had this whole series of last things that serial killers ate before they were executed, or like people like that. So for Jeffrey Dahmer, as a joke, I put a broomstick. Oh, God. And Instagram did not like that. I thought it was funny, and it went viral. Yeah. But in about 5 hours, I was demonetized for inciting violence, which I was like, I mean, it's a little gray, because I'm not really saying anything, but if you know, you know.
Oh, no.
So I got demonetized for 6 months for that.
Look, Instagram, it's all jokes. It's all jokes.
It was funny. It had like 5,000 likes in like 40 minutes.
Oh, my God.
On Reels, which is pretty good on there.
Yeah.
So I was like definitely getting reported.
Oh, my God.
That's when everybody had like their weird fascination with Jeffrey Dahmer.
Yeah.
Which I still don't understand how we're still profiting off of the mishaps of all that stuff. But
yeah, it's kind of
like, I get the documentaries, but when you're making this like entertainment series about somebody and you create this fascination about them, that's when I think people get twisted. So my major in college was criminal justice with a concentration in homeland security. Mm-hmm. Obviously, I don't use that because I think college is like the biggest waste of money ever. But regardless, you know, it's like when people hear about crimes and they hear about criminals and they create these fascinations, that's when you create more. It's like,
people
it's a weird conundrum. And like I said, like there's some like crime museums out there that all their money and proceeds get donated back to victims' families. Mm-hmm. But like, how much of that Netflix money went back to a victim's family of Jeffrey Dahmer?
That's a good question. There's been a lot of talk about that. I think that one was so twisted and disturbing to watch. Like, I haven't seen, there's been a ton of shows like that, but I haven't seen people react and question, like, maybe we shouldn't do this until that one came out.
Yeah, like, the only show I loved on Netflix, just from the background that I came from, was Mindhunters. It was like, if you've never seen it, I watched, it had the guy that was a part of Hamilton as the king.
Mm-hmm.
I think his name is Jonathan Groff. Something Groff.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, he's like this FBI agent, and that's when they're starting the part of the FBI where they start like deeming what a serial killer is, and they start investigating the early case. It's like really good, but it's not really like focusing on one particular case. Like, it's kind of just giving the initial history of how the psychological components were first studied.
Yeah.
And implementing that into a criminal justice sense.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It like gives a bad, like, and I have to be very careful because a lot of these places I go are a lot of times very, very just somber. It's like the history is really bad.
Mm-hmm.
Like Penhurst, for example, there were so many people there that had disabilities that were just mistreated, abused. And for me, the biggest thing that I like to do is give, if there are these entities there, is give them a voice that they didn't have when they were alive.
Mm-hmm.
And with somebody that's not going to judge them or somebody that's going to belittle them, it's almost like opening a channel of communication that they didn't have while they were alive. And that's what makes me happy to be able to do it. But you have to be very careful about how you introduce these places, because if you go off of this fear-mongering component, right, what is there to be afraid of people that were disabled and mistreated about this place?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what you have to be really careful with, is so many people like to capitalize on tragedy that it's very easy to fall into that if you initially dabble in it. Because it will do well. Like, I'm not saying it won't do well, but that's where you have to have the moral compass of saying, is it worth the view for me to post this?
Right. It's like you want to be respectful.
Yeah.
So
it's I've never posted anything with ill intent, but people have twisted things that I've posted, which, I mean, they're going to do that regardless.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of folks out there that will just make content because they know it'll do well regardless of who it affects.
Yeah. Well, I think that's really cool. Just to even acknowledge, like, hey, yes, this is haunted, it's crazy, but, like, remember, these were real people who, like, actually died here. I think that's cool.
Well, and the history is what's big, because a lot of people don't understand how grim history can be. Mm-hmm. And you're kind of giving people the history lessons that your history teacher didn't want to give you. Mm-hmm. Right? Because when you look at, like, especially mental health treatment in American history, I mean, we're still struggling with it now.
Yeah.
So imagine 80 years ago how bad it was. And that's something that I think is eye-opening for some of my viewers, is like, this is how bad it was then, and then you look at how much it's changed now, and it's really not that much.
Yeah.
So it almost poses questions to people that they may not have necessarily thought of beforehand.
Mm-hmm. And they probably didn't come to your channel expecting to have questions like that.
Yeah, and like it's funny with me because I'm very intelligent, but a lot of times I cloud that with just everything else that I do. Mm-hmm. But sometimes I jump down these deep holes of theory, and people are like, "This is the same guy."
You're like, a minute ago you were singing Johnny Cash, walking around talking to yourself. Like,
that's it.
Now we're getting deep.
That's it. So
well, that's great. I mean, I think well-rounded content does well. That's why you're successful.
Yeah, and like I said, like we were on monetization. Back to the monetization component. I mean, it is taking a long time to get to the point where we're actually starting to see profits.
Right.
Because there for a while you're in the negative because you got to make that sacrifice. Like to make it work, if you really want to be successful, you're not going to see money for a while. You're going to see a lot of money leaving, not a lot of money coming in.
That's true. That's what whenever we started this company, everybody's like, don't expect it overnight.
Yep.
It's, yeah. And everybody that I've had on here, I mean, I've had all kinds of business owners, people who own brick and mortar stores. I've had a musician, and all of them say the same thing. They're like, the hardest part is not getting rich, like, immediately. Like, that sucks.
Yeah, I mean, when the day comes that we make it there, it'll be nice. I'll be a Lambo ghost hunter. But until then, we're going to keep driving the Ford Explorer. Like, we're going to keep making it. But it is a blessing to be able to live the life that I live and not really have the 9 to 5 structure, right? Because I went from being a plumber to a legislative assistant for a Tennessee House of Representatives member to hunting ghosts. But you don't really know what you want to do until you try something, right? With politics, I wanted to help people, but you soon learn that the structures in place make that very hard.
Yeah.
And you almost lose more trust in your government after you work for them.
I can imagine. I mean, that's how I was in news, and I wasn't even, I'm just close to it. I wasn't actually in it.
Yeah. Like, it seems like the closer you get to some of these bureaucratic structures, the worse and worse they get.
I bet. Yuck.
So once I got out of that, I was a lot happier. I wasn't making any money, but I was a lot happier.
Yeah.
And I can turn passion and happiness into something before I can turn misery into something.
Yeah. So what is it like to have, I mean, you kind of touched on it, but to have that many eyes on you, like, does that freak you out ever? Knowing
Initially,
like, there's a million
it did.
people?
Like, because I had a video, my first, what I consider viral now, my first big video hit 20 million views.
Whew.
So, for context, the Island Boy video of them two had 22 million. My video had 20 million. So, granted, they're a different story. We're not even going to touch that one.
I haven't sung that song in my head in months, and you have just ruined me. I'm going to
sorry.
go home and be like, Island Boy. Like,
But 20 million is a lot of people.
That's a lot.
I mean, that's the stream that I had 41,000 people watching me walk through Waverly Hills.
Wow.
And the account I'm on now actually wasn't even my original account. I started the account I was on now last November.
Oh, wow.
So that one has only been around for a little over a year. But my original account kept getting banned because the problem with live platforms is your competition, especially if you start succeeding, will just sit there and report you over and over and over and over and just watch your stuff get taken down until it gets reinstated. So I had to create another account because this one was about to get tanked because I had so many reports of stuff I didn't do. It was like illegal activities. It was like trafficking drugs. And I'm like sitting here looking at my phone. And I'm like, what is going on?
No
so
drugs.
I create this other account. That video pops off. And then a month later, I had 30 million views in a night and went up 300,000 followers in a night. It's that's why I said my perception now is flawed. Because when people are like, oh, I went viral. I'm like,
kind of.
not really.
Yeah.
10,000 people saw that.
Do you ever, do you engage with the haters at all, or you just ignore it?
Listen.
Everybody's got a different take on the haters.
So if it's early in the night and I'm streaming, no. Because I just bite my tongue. I let it fly. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to turn the other cheek. Once I start getting tired, or if I get tired or hungry, it changes. Like somebody came in last night and they said, just another clickbait video. Instead of clickbait, they said click B-A-Y-E. And I said, listen, if you're going to come in here and talk shit, at least learn how to spell. And then everybody in my chat just starts ragging this lady about spelling. And she goes, I can't believe you picked... Like, I lay into people. Because here's my thing. Like, I'm the most respectful person ever if you come at me with respect. But if you come at me sideways, I'm going to reciprocate it.
Right, let's go.
Like, if people have a problem with me, you can email kalanighosthunter@gmail.com. And HR will get back to you once we go through the spam folder. I mean, that's what I tell people. I said, if you got a problem with what I'm doing, you can either swipe the hell out or send me an email and it'll get put in the trash. That's what I tell them. So I kind of lay into it because that's my persona. I don't take shit from anybody. I feel like if you just ignore them, then you're letting people feel like they're gaining some sort of power through their phone because they're never going to say that to you in person.
That's true.
But because there's a phone in between you, they feel that they can say whatever they want. So I'd rather say whatever I want. Well, there's 7,000 people laughing at them too. I just make it content out of the people that come sideways.
Yeah. Good for you. It's like Taylor Swift, all of her haters. She's like, oh, you want to say I'm a snake? Here's the Reputation tour.
Yeah, I mean, like, sometimes embracing the villain role is the better route to go than just trying to be the good guy all the time.
I love it. So this show is about being in your 20s. Obviously, you're in your 20s.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times we talk about, like finding your way. What is it like to be doing a career path like you said up top, like that isn't really, it's not laid out for you? Like, is that weird to be young trying to figure out life, but also have a career path that's like there is no way.
I think
You know what I
being
mean?
young now is hard anyways.
Yeah.
Right? Because like our parents could go work at Domino's and afford to go to college and afford to buy a house.
Mm-hmm.
And now you look at the price of everything and it's just astronomical.
Yeah.
So we're sold from the beginning that the path to success is you go to school, you get a college degree, you get a job, you create a family, you set yourself up to work until you're old, and then you retire.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is now when everyone has a college degree, what is the separation between you and Joe Blow that also has a college degree?
Yeah.
Nothing. So without work experience and different components that make you more valuable to a company, you're just another checkbox. So for me, I've been working since I was tiny. I mean, I came from a very broke family, and we were cleaning office buildings when I was like 3. I'm out here changing out trash bags, and I did that all the way through high school, cleaning houses with my mom. So I've been working my entire life. So like the work part doesn't bother me. And then when I get older, I'm starting to run an e-commerce business, flipping items on Amazon. That's how I bought my car. Everybody thought I was a drug dealer in high school because I'm like pulling up with like nice stuff, brand new car. Everybody's like, yeah, this guy's selling drugs. I was actually going to like Burlington Coat Factory, buying all their shoes and then flipping them on Amazon.
Oh my God, you were hustling is what
But,
you're doing.
You know, that's the thing is I've been working for a long time, but it's better to work smarter and not harder. So with this particular job now, there is no guidebook. There is no safety net. There's not really any format to follow. It's really all just self-inspired, and once you come up with this idea, you have to go for it. So there's definitely a lot of risk involved, and I think any valuable business or job opportunity or opportunity nowadays, there has to be that risk involved. Because if there's nothing that you have to give up or no skin on the table, then you're going to be in the same playing field as everybody else.
Mm-hmm. I really like that. I wish that I could remember how my dad phrases it, but every time I get all freaked out about this company, which doesn't happen often, but you know, I mean, you get it. Whenever you do something risky, every now and then you wake up at 3 a.m. and you're like, what if it doesn't work?
Yeah, you start watching that bank account and you're like, oh man, listen, we're going to have to change some stuff.
Yeah, so my dad, he has some quote that he always says about batting averages, you know, like whenever you like take the risk, you have
you
got to
swing the bat.
Home run.
You got to swing the bat, or you have to take the shot.
Yep.
And if it doesn't work out, now you know at least one way not to take that shot again.
Mm-hmm. So I guess that's kind of your advice, but what advice do you have for young people who want to do something unique?
My biggest piece of advice for somebody is to find out what you're passionate about. Because no matter what you're doing, you could be the smartest person in the world. You could be the best musician in the world. But if you never take that risk and you never start doing something and you never find something that you're passionate about to not see a return on, you know, that's the point where you're like, okay, right? Because how many people make music, but they never actually produce any music? So they're sitting there playing the guitar in their living room while there's somebody way less talented than them singing in front of 50,000 people.
Damn.
It's that person decided to take the risk because there's so many people that they set these standards for themselves. Like, I'll start a podcast once I can afford this piece of equipment. I will start making content when I can afford this camera. I will do this. You know, they set these standards. I will do this after doing this instead of just, why don't you just do it?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because you're leaving those opportunities on the table because the best teacher in life nowadays is the experience gained. Regardless if it's bad or good, that doesn't matter. But the experience you gain from doing something is what's going to set you up to do it better the next time.
Yeah.
So I think the biggest advice is take the risk, find out what you're passionate about, and just start doing it.
I love it. Two-parter question here. I like to ask people, why do you do what you do? So I kind of have 2 questions. 1, why do you ghost hunt? And 2, why do you choose to share it with people?
I mean, now it's my job. So when I first started, it was out of passion, and it still is out of passion to produce it at the rate that I do. But I want to give people a break from their everyday monotony. So there's a lot of people that confide in my content to give themselves a break from having 5 kids or to give themselves a break from a bad marriage, which that puts a lot on my head because I am now the responsibility of all these people's happiness in some form or fashion in certain capacities. So for me, it's almost it's not even about the ghost hunting anymore, but it's about providing this escape for people from their day-to-day life.
Yeah. It's like what you said earlier, like taking them on this adventure with you.
Yeah, it's like, there's a lot of these people that they would do anything in the world to have the opportunity that I have, but for one reason or another, they just can't.
Yeah.
But they can lay in bed and turn on their phone and sit here and have their tablet next to them as they're watching 4 different surveillance cameras from one of the most haunted places in the world, and they're trying to find like figures, and then they're over here watching me on their phone doing stupid crap. Like, it's just giving them something that just watching a TV show isn't going to give you.
Yeah.
Because not only do I interact with people, but there's a lot of these people that I know on a personal basis. Because for me, the community aspect, I think, is what's caused me to grow so rapidly. Is it's not just this connection of you have celebrity here and your audience over here. I've created this community where I'm directly involved. Like, I've got 11,000 people on my Snapchat list. Do you know how many replies that I try and get to that I just miss? And some crazy stuff that's in there. Mm-hmm. But I want people to feel that I am somebody that they can actually talk to and have a relationship with in that capacity, because there's thousands of content creators out there. Why would I be any different? Or how can I be different?
Right.
So everything that I do is focusing on how I can take one more step to be better than whoever my competition would be.
Mm-hmm. I have to ask, is the hat your ghost hunting hat, or has that always been your personal style?
No, so I have a very weird style. Like, one day I can wear overalls and a Carhartt and a cowboy hat, and the next day I'm wearing Travis Scott Retro 4s, and I don't put myself in this box of I have to have this style. Uh-huh. Now this is my ghost hunting style.
Yeah.
And I wear this as my normal style sometimes. Actually, a lot more times than most, but I rock a pair of J's too.
Hell yeah.
I don't like putting myself in boxes.
I like that. I think that we've gone through all of my questions. What do you have, like, what can people look forward to? What's on your agenda for 2023?
So I've got a couple more days of the Savannah House, which by the time this airs, that will be done. And then I'll be at another place for a week in the middle of this month. And then next month, I'm going to stay at a location in Ohio for a week. But what's cool now is I'm starting to do events. Mm-hmm. So now people can actually come and join me on investigations at these different places. So like they buy a ticket and they can join me at these places to investigate. So a lot of people that have been watching me for a year plus, mm-hmm. It's weird because they feel like they know you. Uh-huh. But when you meet somebody and you know them, but they don't know you, it's like this weird, like, hi, like, I don't know you. Yeah. Or like when people come up and see you on the street, they like feel like they know you.
Yeah. And
you're like, who are you?
Sorry, what's your
like
name?
People will be like, oh, I love that place you were at last night. And I'm like, thanks. Who are you? It's just an adjustment.
Yeah.
And like for people that are like big, I can't even imagine.
Oh my gosh, like these A-list celebrities. I mean, every
I can't
move.
Imagine. Everywhere you go, you got somebody looking to see what you're doing.
That's crazy.
It would drive me nuts.
Oh, that's really cool that people can buy a ticket and come hunt with you, though.
So we've got that. And like I said, I don't like to plan out super far in advance because then I'm locked into stuff. Mm-hmm. But we're looking to have at least a week-long live stream every month this year. And then I've got conventions lined up that I have to do. And I'm actually doing one in Boston. There's this haunted hotel that hasn't ever been investigated before, and they're going to have me come in for a part of their celebration for their birthday. It's like their 250th birthday.
Wow.
They're going to have me come in to lead like a little paranormal weekend.
Well, that's awesome.
So things are looking up. I'm busy, which is a very good problem to have. But now it's like getting to the point where I actually have to have a scheduler because I lose track of everything.
Right.
And somebody's like, yeah, you have to be in Kansas next week. And I'm like, wait a minute. Just like this trip, I have to be in Eureka Springs the day after I'm here, and it's a 16-hour drive. Oof. So that'll be me cranking out some King of the Hill and energy drinks to get there.
Oh my God, you need an assistant.
I don't like giving away control though.
I feel that.
Because then if somebody screws up, it irritates me.
Yeah.
Because if I screw up, I ain't got no fingers to point other than right here. somebody else does, though, then
Yeah.
I don't like it.
Maybe all of your posse of attachments. Maybe one of them could step up to the plate.
That would listen. If I can get them to start cleaning stuff, cooking, running my schedule. If I could somehow figure out that recipe, we'd be in business.
That'd be great.
I'd be marketing to everybody. Let me hook you up with a ghost. Like, what did I say last night, Savannah? I was like, have you ever been rizzed up by a ghost? Isn't that what I said? I say all sorts of random stuff. It's like Gen Z ghost hunting is pretty much the epitome of what I do.
Gen Z ghost hunting.
Because you've got these old heads on TV that are like, the demons present in the building, come forward, and I'm like over here asking people if they've ever been rizzed up by a ghost. Like, it's just such a juxtaposition that I think it's a nice, refreshing take on something that's been beaten the head so many times a certain way. So
I agree. Well, where can people find you?
I am Kalani Ghost Hunter on everything. If you go to KalaniGhostHunter.com, it literally has everything, so you can just find it all. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. This has been wonderful.
I appreciate it. It's been fun.
Thank you.
After we figured out the sound, right?
Yeah. After the ghost in this room knocked it off.
I hope they don't mess up any more equipment here.
I hope not. If you leave something behind, I know where it came from.
Well, at least you can find the source.
That's true. Thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you.
Y'all, that was a wonderful conversation. I feel like I learned a lot. And like afterwards, we were all like talking in the studio just about the interview and like more questions. And I just think this is so interesting. Ghost hunting is something like literally before today I didn't know anything about beyond like Ghostbusters, which is like crazy. But that was wonderful. And I'm nervous at this point. I will have already done like ghost hunting. But when I'm recording this, it's happening tomorrow night. And I'm really scared. I'll let y'all know if I come home with any attachments. Hopefully they're cool. And like we joked about, hopefully they like to clean the house. And entertain me. Hopefully they won't think I'm too annoying. Anyway, that was a wonderful episode. Thank y'all so much. Let me know what you think in the comments. Y'all, please remember to subscribe, rate, review, all of the things. Every bit of feedback that you guys give me is helpful. And please share this podcast with your friends. Like, throw it on your Instagram story, text it to somebody. That is a wonderful way to support me and this show. You can follow us on Instagram and TikTok and Facebook at Chicks and Dip Pod. You can also follow me personally at Lauren_Wolverton. And new episodes drop every single Monday morning, bright and early. We are available for video on Spotify and YouTube, and audio only on Spotify, Apple, Google, Stitcher, literally anywhere that you can get a podcast. So check it out, and I will see you guys next week. Bye.